Welcome to Feast and Farm Cooks. My name is Rachel Ballard, and today we are making my family's absolute favorite, a blackberry pie. We don't have birthday cake in our house anymore because when you ask the kids, what do you want? They say, we want blackberry pie. So that's what we're having, and I'm going to show you how simple this is to do. Absolutely one of our favorites. So here's what you're going to need to put this together. I have about 4 to 6 cups of blackberries here. These are our homegrown ones, so you may notice that they don't look exactly perfect, but that's how they come out here in the country. They have been frozen and thawed. You can use bagged frozen ones. That's absolutely fine to do. So no worries on that if that's where you need to pick yours up. White sugar, a little bit of flour. You can use cornstarch here if you prefer. A little bit of salt, some lemon juice, and then I've got some cold butter, and I've got some egg and water that I've mixed up for at the top of the crust. And then I have the pie crust that you can either use a store-bought one, or if you watch one of my previous pie crust video, you'll see how to make your own if you would prefer to do that. So I've got my pie crust over here in my pie shell. And I also have a little bit of extra pie crust for the lattice for the top. Oh yes, we're gonna put a lattice on it. Don't freak out, it'll be fine. I'll show you when we get there. So all we have to do to mix the blackberries is add our sugar. And if your blackberries are very tart, you're gonna have to adjust the sugar based on that. So taste them first. If they're very sweet, do a little bit less. I did about a cup here because mine will make you go, they're pretty sour. A little bit of flour. I always find that my pies are very, very juicy. Lots of moisture in mine. If you want yours to be a little bit thicker, you can add a little bit more flour if you'd like to. You just don't want to go overboard with that. And then a pinch of salt. What's the salt for? Really, it's just kind of a balance thing. It keeps balance to the crust, or to the pie, to the filling. So, and then a little bit of lemon juice. So with our lemon, I'm just going to just kind of squeeze a little bit in there. That brightness is really nice inside the filling. You don't really notice it being there a whole lot, but it's nice. Okay, so got that in, and then you just mix it up and toss everything around. Just kind of get any, major pockets distributed, get the flour in, get the sugar kind of mixed in enough, and you don't have to worry about it being exactly perfect, but we're gonna mix that in, and I'm gonna set it to the side. Get in there, Renegade. I'm gonna set it to the side, and I'm gonna kind of let it sit and macerate and juice out a little bit while we work on the crust. So, stir that in, and that's what it's gonna look like. It's just kind of clumpy in there, and my berries are still a little bit frozen. It won't matter. So, it may take just a tad longer in the oven, but no big deal. So, what I'm gonna do is go ahead and put these into my crust. Now, I am using a 9-inch pie plate here. It's 9 inches wide and about 1 inch deep. We really prefer our blackberry pies to be just a little bit more shallow, but if you have a deep dish pie crust, you would certainly want to increase the amount of blackberries that you're putting in. So, I'm gonna heap it in here. It's fine to heap it in here because what's gonna happen is as it cooks, it's going to settle and it's not gonna be so high. So if it looks like you've got too much, don't worry. It's gonna work out fine. All right, so we've got those in. Kind of just spread them out a little bit. And now let's make that lattice top. And I know you're thinking, I don't wanna make a lattice top. Yes, you do. Let me just show you. I will show you how. Let me make room so you can see. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna put a little bit of flour down on our board, and I have got the pie crust that I made earlier. So if you've not seen my pie crust video, I'll make sure and leave a link in the description box so you can check that out. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna roll this into a circle. I got too much stuff on my counter. And we're gonna lightly work with it so it doesn't stick to the countertop from the middle out. So you go middle up, middle down, middle up, middle down. And then once we've gotten it to, about 13 inches across or so, because you want it to obviously be wider than your pie plate is, and you need to have enough extra to be able to tuck it in on the sides. Once you're there, which I'm close, and it's about 1/4 inch thick. You don't want to make your crust so thin that you can't work with it. We're going to cut strips. Sometimes you may even have to flour your knife while you're doing this, so don't worry. We're gonna cut strips. Now they can be as wide as you want. Now for me, I'm not gonna stand here all day with little teeny tiny strips doing this. I do about 1 inch wide. So once you've gotten several of these cut, I will come back in just a second and show you what to do with them. So I'll be back in just a minute. Okay, So I have all my strips cut from my second piece of pie dough, and I'm going to show you how to weave your lattice. So what I do is I usually start on one end, and I just start by laying on a section. Now this piece is obviously much longer than what my pie plate needs. So what I do is lay it on, and then I just trim off the extra. And then I bring it over, and I'm going to lay on all of my pieces going, what is that, this way. We're going to go from right to left with mine. And I'm going to lay them on, space them about a ½ inch apart or so, and then I will show you how to add the pieces going in the opposite direction. So give me just a second and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have them all going in this direction, and I just realized that I forgot to put the butter in there. So we're going to do it now. I have a couple of little like pats of butter, about 2 tablespoons worth, and all I'm going to do is just stuff it in here. That's all I would have done with it anyway, is just put it on top of the berries. When it melts in, it's going to really kind of make the filling a little bit silky, and it enriches it. So just stick it in there. See y'all, I'm not perfect. I mess things up. I forget. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Now, how to put on the opposing pieces. So this is kind of interesting. What you're going to do is alternate. Yes, you can just take strips and like lay them on the top, but that's kind of the cheater's way. So what you're going to do is you're going to start with, like, this is my second one, my 4th one, and my 6th one. I'm going to peel them back, and then I'm going to take my next strip and lay it in. And then I'm going to lay that 2nd one, 4th one, and 6th one back on top. And if it doesn't line up right, it's okay. Okay, now we're gonna get number 1, number 3, and number 5. Anybody that's left that didn't get bent back before, bend those back, and then lay on your next piece. Try to space them, you know, close to what your other ones were. So we've got those on, and then you lay those pieces back. And so you just continue to repeat, alternating the weave, and you're gonna lose track, because I do it all the time. I stand here and go, which one did I do? I don't even know which one I bent back. So it's okay. It's all right. So I'm going to lay the next one in, and then lay these back on top. And if you want to just lay them on there, we won't judge you for it. It'll be okay. So whatever feels least intimidating to you is what I want you to do, because what matters to me is just that you're cooking. That's all that matters to me, just that you're trying, just that you made something. That's what matters. So however that works for you is what I want you to do. Now I'm working from the other end here, and I'm going to fold them up on this other direction, coming back toward myself. So I'm going to put these down and then fold up my other ones here. Does this seem confusing? I hope it's not confusing. It's very, very simple when you're looking at it anyway. So these go down. And then now here I am, and I'm thinking, which one did I do? There. Takes a second. Sometimes you just got to think. Got to be smarter than the pie. All right. So now I have all of these on, and as you can see, I mean, that's fair. It'll work. So I'm going to get a little flour on my fingers, and I'm going to go around here, and I'm going to seal. You have to seal the pieces of the lattice to the top, to the bottom crust. Otherwise, it'll sometimes come apart in the oven. Like, they'll just kind of separate. So what I'm doing is just kind of mashing them together. This is hardly rocket science, but just like I was showing earlier, I showed this in my pie crust video. When you crimp a crust, I use my index finger and my thumb and the index finger of my right hand, because I'm left-handed. And I hold the dough with 2 fingers and mash with the other one. So if you're right-handed, you'd be doing this opposite of me, because I'm left and I'm a weirdo, and that's how we are. So just keep mashing that. You want to make sure that you've got all of that dough mashed up in there. And you know, here's a secret. When this dough bakes, because we did this with all butter, it makes the most glorious, softest crust, and it puffs up. And when it puffs up, all of your little mistakes or your flaws in your dough or whatever are not really going to be that, they're not going to show like you think they are. So you have to be very forgiving with yourself as you do this. Okay, isn't that beautiful? That's beautiful. And you can do that. And I want you to do this. So let me show you the last step. This is a little bit of egg and water that I've beaten together, and my little cheapo pastry brush. Maybe you're fancier than me and have a nicer one. The bristles fall out of mine when I do things. But brush that on your crust. And what this does is help it to brown evenly, and it gives it a really like nice shine. So just brush that over, not a lot. I'm not going to use all of this. I'm just going to kind of pat it on there. when we bake this, you have to watch to make sure that it doesn't get too dark in the oven as well. So while it's going along, you'll want to peek in on it. If it looks like it's too dark, lightly cover it with some aluminum foil until it finishes baking. Last step, and this is just for pretty, you don't have to do this, but I'm sprinkling on some raw sugar. So you can buy this over in the baking aisle, and it's unrefined, and it looks kind of brown, and the granules are much larger, but when it bakes, it looks really pretty on the outside. So I'm going to sprinkle this on, and I'm going to put it in the oven. I'm actually going to put it on a cookie sheet because the juices will bubble over in your oven and you'll have a smoky mess on your hand if you're not careful. So I'll put it on a cookie sheet, put it in the oven at 350 for about 40 to 45 minutes, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's all finished. Be back in a little bit. Okay, our pie is out of the oven and it looks gorgeous and perfect and just the way I want it. The crust is a little bit shiny from that egg wash we put on, and it's still probably a little too hot for me to dive into. If you don't want yours to be quite as juicy or runny as this one will be, let it cool to room temperature, cover it with some plastic wrap, and put it in the refrigerator to chill it overnight. And then when you're ready to serve it, take it out, warm it up in the oven, and slice it, and you won't have nearly as much juice in it. But it's so hard to wait, and my kids are ready to have a piece too. So I'm gonna just take a tiny little nibble out of here, and the crust is like perfectly crispy. It's almost like a croissant more than it is like a pie crust. It's so flaky and delicious. So got a little bite, I'm gonna take it, I'm gonna eat it. So don't forget to subscribe. I can't wait to have you with me here on Feast and Farm Cooks all the time. Have a great day. I'll see you soon. It's good.